Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today I want to be talking about if you should skip the first 27 episodes of Campaign 1 of Critical Role, because a tweet came out not too long ago, literally a day or two ago now, saying, started Vox Machina at episode 28 because as much as I want to watch the full Briarwood arc, I can't handle secondhand embarrassment. So I want to talk about this for a few reasons. One, because there were plenty of people saying that it's a shame they have to skip this portion of Critical Role Campaign 1, the beginning of it basically. You have to skip the whole thing because of this big issue that's within the first portion of the campaign. And personally, I struggled with this as well. When I started watching it, it actually pushed me away from the series because I started watching, the first ever time I started watching, I started with Campaign 1 because Campaign 2 was already underway, and then I lost interest because of the big issue, not all of the issues. So then, eventually I came back to Critical Role Campaign 2 and started watching from there, and then eventually went back to Campaign 1 and pushed through the first arc. And I've complained about the first arc before in the past, so I'm going to talk about it again here today, because I do think it's something that people should talk about, especially if there's new fans coming into the series and want to know what to expect, if they should watch it or if they shouldn't. So that's what this video is. We're going to talk about if you should skip the first 27 episodes of Campaign 1 of Critical Role. And we're going to go over the negative stuff first, so we can finish on positive stuff, because I prefer to talk about positivity at the end, because we can leave on that note, which is much better to me. So, starting with all the negative reasons and reasons why you should skip the first 27 episodes of Critical Role Campaign 1. First of all, I'm going to hit a few more than just what people might expect. First of all, for me, there's a lot of quality of life issues that are in the first little bit of the, first little handful of episodes. In fact, it probably reaches for the first 40 episodes where these issues are present. But there's audio issues and live stream issues that, for me, make it hard to watch. And I've said it before, but it's hilarious coming from me, somebody who is working on his audio every single day, trying to make it better. So, for a 3-hour live stream or for a 3-hour video that I'm trying to watch is kind of rough. So that's just a personal thing for me to put that out there. Also, in the beginning, they weren't committed to it. There were lots of times where some of them just didn't show up for a session because they decided to go watch Avengers or something else along those lines. They were, doing something else. They weren't 100% dedicated to it quite yet. So it definitely was more so a true, I would say a very good showcase of a true D&D game, where sometimes someone just doesn't come. They just don't feel like coming in today, or they don't feel like they're needed to come in today, or for whatever reason. They don't want to come in, they don't have to come in, so they decide to skip out of the session, which happened a handful of times during the beginning and would eventually peter out. Also, there was a lot of crosstalk at the beginning, which for me as a DM is dreadfully annoying, but it's definitely a part of the game that you can't ignore, and it's just going to be there forever. But they eventually worked it out, and they do crosstalk today, but it's nowhere near as bad, and in the way it does happen, but it's super prevalent here in the beginning. And they eat a lot. I know that's a weird thing to put out, but they were eating full-on chicken bucket meals sometimes, and it was kind of just weird. You would see them, you'd look over at one point and Travis would be eating a chicken wing, or somebody would be eating another big dish of something, and there would be a lot of passing around of food. They do that now a little bit, but it's usually snacks like popcorn or chips or whatever, right? So again, just like crosstalk, it's faded out or has become smaller and is still there, but it used to be so annoying. So anyway, those are some of the minor issues from the earlier parts of the campaign. Now let's talk about the biggest issue that most people are talking about when they are talking about regards to that tweet I mentioned earlier. So for the Dragonborn elephant in the room, Orion Akba, or Orion Akba, depending on who you are. This guy is the 8th player of Critical Role. He was not a guest. He was there for the first 27 episodes. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he was never absent. He was late, but he was never absent. From all of those episodes, 90% sure he was always there. Which sucks, because this is the person that everyone is getting this secondhand embarrassment from. And it, to go into more detail as to why this guy was so bad, first off, he's a cheater. And that alone is annoying. There's a handful of times where you can go back as they're doing combat, and he'll fudge a dice roll. Literally, he'll roll it and then his hand goes right near where it was and change it. So you constantly see the other players looking at his dice rolls. They have to watch to make sure he doesn't cheat and lie. That's egregious and terrible and should never be done by anybody. You know, it's frustrating when you're a player and you look next to you and this guy is somehow constantly rolling really well, and then eventually you look over and you see him fucking cheating. That's bullshit. So then another thing is he made lots, and I mean lots of inappropriate jokes. And the one that I always point to is Laura's character Vex does something, and Orion, or Tiberius, says something really weird, and it pisses Travis off quite badly. And it's something along the lines of the character has a half chub, right? And the way it was presented was very inappropriate. You know, there's a different way of going about it to where that joke isn't, you know, inappropriate. Like, I don't know how Marisha did that very similar joke using pate in campaign 3 and everyone fucking laughed because it was actually funny and well timed and not gross. The way you'd have to watch the clip for you to understand why it's gross. But it's poorly timed. The way he says it's bad, and it just makes it sound like he's saying it about himself towards Laura, which is very inappropriate. So there's that. But then there's also, you know, to go back to the cheating, one of the biggest ones is they were in the Underdark during the opening portion of the game, and he had used up a lot of his sorcery points in a previous fight. They cut halfway through the fight to end the episode. They come back, and he just starts rifling off sorcery point abuse as if he had reset it. Which, you know, in between games, for those players and Matt as the DM, you're not keeping track of how many he used beforehand. So it's something that you can easily miss if you're another player beside him, but it sucks because lots of viewers don't miss that kind of stuff, and they pointed this out, that he abused. I remember reading through the comments back when I first started watching Critical Role, or Campaign 1, and watched this stuff, and I read the comments saying he should not be able to do this right now because he used 90% of his sorcery points in the last game. So this guy, again, has more cheating, sexual jokes, all the works, and he was just a problem character just in general. With his attitude toward things, he felt like he was the main character a lot. There was a section where whenever, like, he doesn't take suggestions from other people during combat. He gets really pissed off when somebody else tells him or gives him a suggestion or tries to help him out. Like, this is my turn gets said a handful of times from him, which is never good. As a player, you want to take advice from your other teammates because they might give you a better strategy or might help. And yes, there is a bit of metagaming to that. But at the same time, if you guys are in a bad situation, talking to your players as if you're strategizing from the heavens is not a bad thing. So that's, you know, something that was bad from him. He wouldn't communicate with his friends. He had a plan, or his cast members, and he wouldn't share his plan, or he wouldn't break from his plan because everyone else broke off from the plan, but he's sticking to his. That would be kind of the things that he would do in combat and in other situations. And to go back to he thought he was the main character portion of this, it seemed like his character and Alora had a thing, but once it was revealed that Kima and Alora had a thing, he blew up on Matt during a session. He got mad, saying, like, that's bullshit, like, you're gonna take this away from me too, blah, blah, blah. And it was just kind of rough listening to him get mad at the DM because a possible love interest might have a different love interest. And it wasn't that it was set in stone that Kima and Alora were together at this point. In fact, I'm pretty sure this moment signified that it would be. But, you know, it's just, he did a handful of things like this throughout his time on the show. And he did other things that were terrible out in real life. But I'm not going to speak on those because I'm not truly educated on them. I can only tell you what I saw within the game. One more example as to what makes me hate this character and this player, and I can't really, like, divide it, but to make a divide between the two, which some people are able to do so, but I wasn't. And it's simply, there was one time where, and it bothers me to my core as when I play, when someone wants to do a lot of shopping to buy something. And he took up an hour and a half by himself, constantly arguing with Matt over the logistics of buying things so he can make something ridiculous so he can put Percy in his place and be like, ha, I'm smart too. And that to me was irritating. He spent an hour plus trying to outdo another player. That is a fucking huge no-no for me. That is so bad and so just arrogant to think that, oh, lots of people like what he's doing, so I'm going to try to do it better. And that is to me the ultimate like sign, like dirty jokes, cheating, being inappropriate, trying to be the main character, whatever. And it's not whatever because the dirty joke thing was fucked up. But like pretending to be the main character, cheating every once in a while, whatever. That's stuff you can look past. But trying to put another player down is something that I personally can never look past. And that is one reason why I fucking hate Tiberius and Orion Akba. So now that I've got that really long rant out of the way, my apologies, time to move on to something more positive. And it's really simple for me. There's a handful of really good things I do think is fun, a fun portion of this, section of Critical Role. So first of all, I do enjoy the Underdark portion. I think it's fun. There are a few moments where it sucks. Like I said, audio and video quality is not the greatest. And there's a few Orion bits in here that suck. But overall, it's actually really fun. They go to the long Underdark delve, and it's really cool. And we get to see a bunch of mind flayers and brain destroying things. I forget what they're called. Brain devourers or mind devourers. Really cool setting. The Underdark dwarves. I don't think we get to see too many drow. There might be a handful of drow, I forget. But it's really fun. It's actually a really fun setting. The first part of the first arc is really fun for me. Really enjoy it. There's a lot of fun combats. There's a portion where Vax, his foot falls in lava, and they have to deal with that for the rest of the time being there because they can't deal with it right now. And his foot is crippled for ages. And it's, a fun... Not fun, but it's interesting that they didn't, they weren't able to fix it or anything. Like, none of them could do anything, so they had to work around that, and it made it very interesting. And the story was interesting. They went in to save Kima and to get the Horn of Orcus, I believe it was, or Orthax or something. I forget the exact name. But it was ultimately really fun, this Underdark portion, if you exclude any of the Tiberius stuff. And it's where we get to see them start, because this is a transitional period. They were playing Pathfinder before this. So we get to see them learn the game. And it's really fun for me to watch new players. It's actually one of my favorite things. When a new player or a new person says, I want to try D&D, and then I get to watch them learn and they get to have fun with it. And you see that in the opening portions of these games. And it's just overall really cool to watch. And I said it before as a negative, but it's kind of also positive. This is the opening portion is the closest that Critical Role has been to a real game, a real D&D game that you and I would play forever. This is the closest it ever has been and will ever be again. Because as time went on, the production went up, everything just went up. The minis, the terrain, the set, the table, the dice, they continued to grow and have moved past a realistic setting for a game. I can't imagine having a table perfect for that these days. Like the table that Matt has, or that Critical Role has, is so perfect in design to look at all of your players and for them to all have enough space and to reach forward and grab all the minis and you can still touch all the minis. It is the perfect table. I can't afford that. I don't know if you can. And it's usually you'll see people on a dining table, which is good. It's not bad or anything. But the Critical Role table to me is optimized. That is a perfect table. And that is only the smallest degree of which has pushed it beyond a legit... Like, you can make that table, for sure. You could. It just takes a little bit of resources. So then, you move past that, and you have all the terrain, all of the beautiful minis they have, and you have all of the excellent sound, and now the fucking holograms, and the projection stuff behind them. So this portion sets a realistic expectation, and now what we see today is how far a D&D game can go, and I think that's a positive. Seeing the growth like that is incredible, and I think it's a good start. Not to mention, like I said earlier, I do really enjoy the story that we are presented with for the Underdark portion, and this first 27 episodes leads into the Briarwood arc, So, if we return back to the original question, which is, do I think you should skip this, or do I think you should watch it? If this is your first time watching Critical Role Campaign 1, I encourage you to attempt to watch it. If it is a rewatch of Campaign 1, skip it. Skip it, skip it, skip it. You already damn well know the answer was skip it. If you've seen it already, do not put yourself through it again. So it's that simple. I think it is that simple based off everything that I've talked about. This has been very ranty, and I've kind of enjoyed this rant. But based on all that, I think if you have never seen Critical Role Campaign 1 before and have struggled with the idea because you hear some bad things about it, try it. I know that's not the best answer, but seriously, trying it is better than not, because you can always stop trying to watch it, and you can move on to episode 28 and enjoy the Briarwood arc. And personally, I've said it, I didn't say it, there's also another positive. There's a lot of guests at the beginning, and a lot of fun times in the beginning. Vasselheim has a ton of guests. Notably to me is the Will Wheaton Dice Curse. That to me is always going to be something that I enjoy watching. I love the clips, and that's part of the first 26 episodes, 27 episodes. So there are plenty of fun moments and fun times to be had within these arcs, the first two, or the first arc. And I do believe you should attempt it. If you can't get through it, I don't blame you. I can't get through it anymore. I watched it once and I will never, ever, 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 ever do it again. Simple as that. Actually, that's a little lie. I might do it again for a video down the road. But until then, I won't do it ever again. Because it is rough, to say the least, for someone who's already watched it. And there you have it. Should you skip Campaign 1's first arc and go right to the 28th episode? Yes. Yes, you should. If you've already seen it and you're going through a rewatch. And yes, you should if you can't stomach some of the BS. Or a lot of the BS. To be totally honest, there's a lot of BS. So, yeah, I'm going to say at the end of the day, the answer is yes. Skip it. And enjoy the 7-player, 6-player chaos that ensues ever since then. Because that is what's enjoyable. That's why it's super popular. It didn't take a hit when Orion left, and I think that should say something. Orion didn't take anything away. He didn't bring anything to the table. Simple as that. So yeah, there's the video. I will see you guys on Friday for the episode 42 recap. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe. I would really appreciate that. I think hitting 400 by the end of the year would be really cool for me. I didn't think I could ever hit 50 or 100, so the fact that I'm at 390 right now is really cool. And I very much appreciate all 390 of you who are subscribed, 391 or 392 if I'm missing 2 right now. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Peace.